Hi everyone, Jeremy here. Thank you for watching today. So in this video we're going to be using the new collection from Made to Surprise called Moving Scenes. I'm going to show you how I made this card here. I think it's stunning. I really love the ink blended background, all the sparkle in the trees, and the stamps and coordinating dies are so cute. I think this one is my favourite out of the samples, and I've had lots of requests to recreate this video because you've all been enjoying it also. I'm going to start by ink blending my panel. So I have a piece of white cardstock that measures just over 5 by 7. I've indicated some pencil lines of the area that I don't need to ink blend because this will be covered by the snowy hills, so I'm concentrating on this portion here. And the colours that I'm using is Blueprint Sketch, Wilted Violet and Villainous Potion. So I'm going to divide this section into approximately 3. Ink blend that. I'm going to pop you on high speed while I do that, and then I'll come back to you once it's done. So there's my inked background now complete. I'm going to set that to one side and let that dry and talk you through the rest of the cutting guide. So I have the Made to Surprise 5 by 7 mechanism die here. I'll talk you through what I've cut. So I've prepared my card blank. So it's a top folding 5 by 7. This isn't a shop bought one. I actually use 8 by 8 and then I trim it down to the correct size. So there's my card blank. I've then used the panel here with the stitched and circle edge, and you can actually add thread or really thin ribbon through here if you wish. So I've got a piece in black to sit over the top there like so. I've cut one of this circle die in white cardstock. Any colour will be fine, it will be hidden. I'm using this because it's 300 GSM, so it's got a bit more strength to it. One each of those. Again, I've cut them in white. I've cut 2 in white in this arm here, and I've added them together with collal glue. I found that when you add 2 together, it adds a bit more strength, and it's easier then to pull the arm in and out from the card. And I've die cut the arrow in black and attach that there. Now I don't know if you can see that I've got 2. I don't need 2, I just need the 1, but I've used this die here and I've cut 2 acetate arms. This panel here, I will be cutting the ink blended panel out with this, but I need to let it fully dry before I can cut that, so we can work on the other pieces while that's drying. So I'm going to work on my mechanism piece first. So you want to take this piece with the 4 slots on it and bend those over like so, and this then creates your brad. You pop these 2 arms through the hole in this circular piece and then fold them back. Take some quick grab glue and just add a small amount on the top of these 2 arms that you've slotted through, and then add your circular piece over the top. Just hold that in place for a few seconds and then they should be attached. So you want to check that this is moving freely. So I hold the brad then essentially in my finger and thumb, and I turn the circle with my other hand. So as long as that's moving freely, that's fine. So placing the circle with the 2 holes that are together at the bottom, I'm going to attach my arm to this hole here. I'm going to take a brad. Any colour is fine, so if you're looking to get rid of the colours that you hardly use, so I've got, it's 2 stuck together there. So I've got these red burnt orange ones that I don't tend to use a lot. So I'm going to just open the brad up slightly with my pokey tool thread that through the hole, and then thread that through that hole there. Taking my pokey tool again, you want to place it at the bottom of your brad, she says, and just bend the arm over. So you don't want it flush to the card, you want that gap so there's movement. So it just swings freely like so. And then I'm going to use this hole here for the acetate piece. So apologies if you can't see that, but I'm doing it in the same way as I did with this arm here. So I'm just going to open the brad slightly, pop it through the hole and through there also, and then again use my pokey tool to fix that in place. And then hopefully you can see that moving really freely there, like so. So that's the mechanism piece ready. So we'll set that to one side, ready for the assembly. I'm just going to talk you through all the bits that I've cut and coloured, and then we're going to do some partial die cutting for the snowy hills. So I've gone ahead and I've stamped and coloured the images that I'll be using on my card. So from the treetops stamp and die set, I've used the silhouette stamp here, and also the snowman stamp. Hopefully you can see those. So that one and that one. And then from the on the ice stamp and die set, I'm going to be using the outline die of the hills to do our partial die cutting. And I've also used the chalet or the house there, this tree image, the skier there and there. Yeah, I think that's it then from that set. So I'll just bring those in. I used Memento ink to stamp the image because I used alcohol markers to colour that in. I've then used Made to Surprise accent glaze. If I just bring that in, I've used this and I've just sort of painted a line across the tree there, and I've used some Paper Mania fine glitter iridescent to give the effect of snow. Excuse me. I've done the same then on the houses, and I'll be adding more accent glaze and the glitter to the snowy hills. You'll see me do that on camera. So I'm just going to set those to one side. So I've got 2 panels of white cardstock that measure 5.5 by 5.5 for this larger one, and for the smaller one I've got 5.5 by 4. As the length doesn't necessarily matter as long as it's wide enough to sit over this die. So what we're going to do is partially die cut the tops of the hills with these dies here. Then once that's cut, I'm going to die cut it again using this panel because I want this circular piece here for the arm to pull in and out. I still want that to be visible on the front. So I'm going to use this die first, I think, for the larger piece. So I want it to sort of, if you look at the panel here, I want it roughly around about here. So we're going to do 2 types of partial die cutting. So I've got my low tack tape. This is from Creative Craft Products. I really like that it's on the dispenser there. It's really helpful, especially when you're trying to find the end of the washi tape. So all I'm going to do is just tack this in place at the top, not at the bottom, because I want this area. So if there's still some tack left on that tape, I don't want it to take any of the fibres away. I'm going to bring in my die cutting plates and show you, if you haven't done partial die cutting before. I'm going to place it upside down in my machine, or you can pull it along to to the top here. So all I want is this piece here. I don't want to cut this edge because I want the panel to be larger than the actual hills. So I'm going to place my plate, she says. I'll show you without the copy paper a minute. So I'm going to place my plate like so. So we've got the cutting edge here, and then the die cutting plate is after that. So the machine will only cut what's in between your top and bottom plate. So I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. I'll come back to you. So that's just run through and given me this sort of effect. So all I'm going to do is just trim this bit away like so. So we've got our snowy edge there. And then I'm going to take this plate and I'm just going to roughly see where I want it. So round about there, I think. I'm going to tack this in place again. Now I want to be mindful of these slots here, so I don't want to add the plate over the top here. So again, I'm going to, all I'm really concerned about is this semicircle and the edges. So I'm going to put my plate roughly about there. Hopefully I'm explaining this very well. And again, I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine and I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've got sort of this piece. So I'm going to trim these bits away, and I'm just going to bring my trimmer in now to finish off that clean edge. So I'm just lining the edge up against the metal plate here. And there we have one piece to go on the front of our card. So I'm bringing in the other die now with the different edge, and just going to place that at the top there. So there we have our two panels to go on the front there. Oh, let me just trim that bit away. Here's my scissors. They will sit on top of one another like so. You still have access to the pull tab. So with my smallest panel, I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the front of that. So I think I used Have a Wonderful Christmas. I think I'll use Merry Christmas this time. So I haven't used this stamp yet, so I need to prime it. You can do that with, you can rub it on your hand like so to take off any of the grease that might be left behind, or oils I should say, from the manufacturing process. But I like to, excuse my cloth, as you can see is well used. I just spray my stamp with some water and give it a good clean. Just going to bring in my stamping platform. I'm not very good with an acrylic block, so this is essential for me. I'm just going to line that up, maybe towards the bottom like so. So I'm using the VersaFine on this one. There we go, I'm happy with that, and I'm going to leave that dry because I'm just a nightmare with the VersaFine. I get smudges everywhere, so I'm going to leave that in my stamping platform for a bit, let that dry. And I've just cleaned my stamp again with some water and the cloth. Then lastly, I'm going to bring my ink blended panel back in, and I'm going to place this over the top like so. And I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. So I want the whole panel to cut this time. So now that my panel is die cut, I'm just going to add some white ink splatters. So I've got the calligraphy ink here. This is from Winsor and Newton. I'm not going to add any water to this. I think that's plenty. I've just got an acrylic block here, added a little bit on the edge, and then I just use that to flick the white paint onto the panel. So I'm just going to set that to one side and let the ink dry on that panel. And while that's drying, I'm going to work on my snowy hills. So I've got the Made to Surprise accent glaze. I found that this was really thick when I first had it. So you can add a little bit of water. You want to stir it in rather than shake it in, because it'll cause lots of air bubbles within the liquid. So if you don't use it for some time, it's really thick, then just add a little bit of water, and I've stirred it in with just like a straw or some sort of tool that'll help you stir it rather than shake it. So all I'm going to do is run some accent glaze along the edge here. Like so. And just pour my glitter over the top. For this piece, this is going to be the back panel, so I'm only doing the one edge on this one. You can press it down slightly if you want to make sure some of those fibres are in the edge. In the edge, in the liquid, you know what I mean. Tap off the excess. I'm just going to refine that edge there. You can always come in with a pokey tool if there's bits that you're unhappy with. So for example, I've got quite a bit on this side, so I'm just gonna take my pokey tool, take some of it away like so. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'll just set that to one side. I'm just going to bring in my other panel, do very similar on this one. So I'm going to do it on the edge, on the curved edge here, on the bottom, and then a few lines sort of in the snow to give that effect. Then there's the other panel complete. I'm going to set that to one side also to dry. So now we're going to bring everything together. So I have my card blank, my black panel. I'm just going to attach those together. I've got some Collage glue for this. Pop that flat onto my card base. Pop that to one side. Now I'm going to take my mechanism piece and some adhesive foam. So I'm using the Creative Craft Products thick white foam pads on here. I'm just going to attach 2 pieces of foam on the front there. And I'm going to take my panel with the 3 slots just using the top slot. So I'm going to pop the acetate through there, and then I like to remove the foam backing. Line this edge up and pop that down in place. So you can do just a quick check to see if the acetate is moving freely, which it is. And now we're going to add the rest of the foam so everything stays in place. So you want to double up on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on the track of this arm here. So I'm just going to cut some thin strips. Because we doubled up on the front piece, we have to double up on the rest of the pieces. Pop that in its place and pop another bit there, like so. And then for the rest, I usually take a whole foam pad and fold it in half. So you want some around the corners. And then you want to figure out where you want your arm, so you can have it moving any way here in this slot. I want it pretty much center, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then just going to give it a track to move within. If you're folding your foam over like I'm doing, for example, the edge, the folded edge there, you want it away from your piece, because it'll, when it's moving, it'll catch. So I'm just going to check to see how that is moving. So, quite good movement there. I'm just going to pop some foam there. And there. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you want to remove your backing from the foam, like so. And I like to hold this arm in place. Bit of foam attached to me there, and just concentrate on the bottom edge here. Line that up and gently just place that down. Check that your arm is moving correctly, which it is, and just press the rest of the foam in place then, because if you need to lift it, it'll be quite easy to do so then. I'm just going to add a little bit of a curve to the arm because it just helps grab onto it. So hopefully you can see that okay, but that's moving really well. And now we're just going to build the rest of the scene around it. So I'm going to bring back in my panels. So I've got that one there. This one to sit over the top there. And then we're going to add all the houses and the trees. Just going to line the edges up. Just going to add a bit of cloud glue to help maneuver it around. I think that's about right. Then for this panel, I'm just going to add some cloud glue to this. But only on the bottom portion. I want to leave the top without glue, so that we can lift the edge up and tuck the houses in there if we want to. So all this will be free as a sort of a tuck spot. I'm going to add the reindeer to the night sky, and then everything else I'll do off camera and come back to you once it's finished. So let's take a small amount of red tape. I'm just going to pop that there and add that there. Just check you're happy with that, with the movement up and down, and I am. So I'm just going to trim the rest of the arm away there. And I'll come back to you once it's finished. So there's the final card. I'll bring it up a little bit closer so you can see all that lovely shine. Can't beat a bit of glitter on a Christmas card. And then got reindeer and Santa moving in the night sky. I absolutely loved making this card, and I think it was one of the first ones I made out of my samples. I love ink blending the background and the snowy hills there with all the trees glitter in there. I'll pop a link in the description box below to all the products I've used in today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, you might want to share the love by hitting the like button, leaving a comment, or consider subscribing to the channel. If you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future tutorials. I just wanted to mention the Facebook group Gems. So if you recreate any of the cards that I share on social media, my design team samples, or any videos on here on YouTube, I had to put my teeth back in then, you're welcome to share them on that group. I'll pop a link in the description box below to that also. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!